students who tested positive for COVID. We took action very quickly to make sure that we quarantined those staff members and coaches who may have been in contact with these students, although we don't know for sure, but as a precautionary method, we do quarantine those staff members. We went a step further just to ensure the safety of the high school, and yesterday I told Principal Pinto that we would be going all remote for the next 2 weeks. So all high school students right now are all remote until they return on November 2nd. And during that time, all sports are suspended. This way it gives everybody a chance to more or less quarantine and get healthy, and hopefully when we return on November 2nd, we can get back to the program that we had prior. Elementary school is running very well. Our elementary students in the cohort A and cohort B are attending school daily, every day, morning and afternoon, and our middle school program is also running very well. We are being very aggressive in terms of assessing students, so there are days when we are sending students home if they show a symptom as per guidelines from the Bergen County Health Department. But in most of those cases, I would say 99% of those, it turns out to be that they are not COVID positive. But to ensure the safety, again, of our staff and students, we are being very proactive. On October 6th, we had a staff in service, a half day for our pre-K through 6 staff members. We gave staff the opportunity to work on their parent visitation presentations, which I'm going to talk about in a couple of minutes. So that day went very, very well. Just to note that the last couple of weeks, we celebrated mandated weeks of a week of respect from October 5th to October 9th. And this week we are participating in School Violence Awareness Week throughout the district. So we have programs for students. Our guidance counselors have done a good job in finding some remote programs for students to look at. Staff members are talking about this within the classroom, and I'm happy to report that things are going very well. Our grab and go lunch, as you know, that all of our students, both in person and remote, receive a grab and go lunch every day. Those students who are remote were receiving a 5-day supply at the high school. We moved that to School 3 starting today. So beginning today and every Wednesday following, students who are all remote can visit School 3 between 4 and 6 p.m. to pick up a 5-day supply of breakfast and lunch. Today was our first day. We had a pretty good turnout. We just felt by moving it to School 3, which is more of a center location of the town, we would get more participation. And we did use School 3 as a site from last March all the way through August, and it turned out very well in terms of participation. So I did send out a notification on our school app, and I did a swift reach notifying parents. So if parents are listening tonight, get the word out that on Wednesdays between 4 and 6 at School 3, parents and or students can pick up breakfast and lunch. I had mentioned Parent Night because of the restrictions that are put upon us by COVID. This year, our parent nights are going to be pre-recorded. And I looked at a couple of them today, and I have to say our staff really did a great job. So the way it's going to work is that on Tuesday, October 27th, parents can visit our website at 7 o'clock at night, click on their school, and then click on their child's teacher, and they will get a, not a video presentation, but a slideshow with a voiceover from the classroom teacher outlining the procedures that they have in their classroom, things that they would normally talk about if parents were in person. So I'm going to send out a reminder to parents, both a swift reach and through the app. But since we're speaking about it now, that'll occur this Tuesday, October 27th at 7 p.m. And it'll stay up there. So if parents are not able to view it that night, it'll be up on the website so they can go to that site and they can look at their child's teacher. If their child has Supplemental classes such as Title I, ESL, there's also a slideshow and voiceover from those teachers also. So this is the first year that we're doing that, and based on what I've seen so far, I think it's going to be very, very successful, and I think it'll give parents a lot of information. Okay, I'll stop here at this point. Any questions from the public? Committee reports?
I just want to touch on facilities. Last week we had a boiler meeting. As you know, number 3 and number 5 school have gotten boiler upgrades. I believe all our buildings now have pretty much in the last 10 years brand new boilers, and that's kudos to the administration and Lou for good financial planning. Didn't cost the taxpayers anything on tax levy. So pretty much wrapped up the boiler project with some loose ends, some inspections, but everything is moving along well. If need be, we'll have another meeting at the end of November, but it doesn't look like that. Today, the Facility and Finance Committees met at the high school with Lou Alfano and Mr. Pinto and Land Associates to look at some possible capital improvement projects. You know, the high school gym section was built in 1963 and hasn't been upgraded, and myself, Mr. Shelley, and Dr. Pantaleone had a good visit there. I got to say the facilities do a great job keeping the building spotless and clean. So we looked at some possible capital improvement projects. Once we get a feasibility study back from Land Associates, we'll share that with the entire board. Tomorrow, we're going to have a pre-construction meeting in reference to the retaining wall project that the borough is assisting us with at the high school on the east side of the field, and that'll be here tomorrow, 1:30 in this room. So anybody on the facility committee is more than welcome to attend. And that wraps up my report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Capano. Anyone else? Any committee reports?
Are you going to talk about athletics?
I was going to just mention the fact you can.
No, I prefer you do it.
Okay, so just to follow up to last week's meeting, as you know, the governor gave some directives out a few weeks ago about winter sports. Right now, he has said that beginning, I believe it's December 2nd or 3rd, that we can participate, schools can, if they choose, participate in winter sports, which would be basketball, wrestling, indoor track. That also covers high school and middle school. I know I had given a flyer out to the board last week about some of the recommendations from NJSIAA, but I also sent out Mr. Porfido, who's our athletic director. He kind of outlined some of the do's and don'ts for the winter season. I just wanted to know if any of the board members had any questions about or any apprehension about moving forward with winter sports. What about middle school sports for the winter?
Having 2 children in middle school and my daughter an avid basketball player, you know, I'm in favor of it, but I guess that, you know, that's what the board is going to do is rely on your feedback, Department of Education's feedback, the governor's executive orders, and I guess it'll be a wait and see approach.
Right.
To do it first and foremost, the children's safety
Right.
is the #1 priority.
I know some of the apprehension is that we're moving now to indoor sports, and I know there's some concern, but in speaking to Mr. Porfido, he feels that if we go through the protocol of assessing students, taking temperatures, possibility no spectators at all, it would limit the number of people that we might have in the middle school gym. One of the drawbacks, I'm speaking about middle school or the high school gym. One of the drawbacks for middle school, as I had mentioned before, is possibly getting other schools to participate so that we can have competition for the students. But as someone mentioned last time, we can always do some type of intramural program for the students. So at this point, one of the things that students that haven't had physicals yet have to move forward with that. So at this time, I am going to make the recommendation based on what we know at this point that we would move forward with middle school and high school sports. In doing that, we would have to appoint the coaches at our November meeting, which is not a problem because they still have plenty of time to get ready after we make the appointments for December 2nd or 3rd. If anything changes as far as within the district, or if anything changes in the county or in the state, or if there's additional directives from the governor, then we would make adjustments accordingly. But, you know, we have to proceed with caution, as we do every day when kids come into the school. And I know that sports is a little bit different because there's contact, but it is activities for our kids, which I think is important. I don't really know yet at this point what the rec department plans to do for the winter, but this would provide activities for students other than the academics. I know they have co-curricular activities such as newspaper, student council, mock trial, things like this, but athletics is in a different category. And we do have a lot of students that just participate in athletics and not in other activities, and vice versa. So I think it is important for not only for their social well-being, but it's good for their mental well-being also.
I have two questions. One is about wrestling. My one concern about any sport is wrestling because of the really close physical contact. I could argue that they have contact in most sports, but wrestling, they're actually like touching each other up close and personal. Are there any special guidelines for wrestling? Because that would be my biggest area of concern.
They haven't come out with all the guidelines yet. One of the things that I did ask Mr. Porfido was are there any districts in New Jersey, because I know there are in New York, where even during the athletic competition they're wearing masks.
Oh,
I don't think that's a mandate in New Jersey,
right.
but I believe there are districts in New York where I just happened to see it on the news one night, a soccer game, and everyone had masks on.
That's not a
Now, I don't know if that's something that health-wise would be smart for kids to have a mask on while they're wrestling, but I do plan on meeting with Mr. Porfido and the coaches who will be participating in winter sports about their concerns
And
and recommendations.
my other question is, as far as positive COVID situations, you had said 2 football players. To my recollection, whenever we've had a positive case, it's only been in football. Do you recall seeing positive cases in any other sports thus far? For us, not across the state or anything, but for us, the only time I recall them coming up is just in football.
We did have a positive case, if you remember, in August
In football.
in football.
But anything other than football.
And we did have a student in school 3 at the very beginning of the year, a pre-K
Right.
student.
No, but in sports,
Nothing that I know of in sports.
nothing. So it seems
Right.
like,
Well,
and we don't know that they got it in football. I'm just saying it just seems like that's the closest contact sport that we have so far. And it's kind of nice to know that we didn't see it in track, we didn't see it for cross country, we didn't see it in
soccer,
soccer, or anything
boys or
like that.
girls.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I know. It's again, like you just mentioned, we did have 2 football players, but it doesn't necessarily mean that
It happened.
it was a result of the participation.
No.
It could have been from home, or outside, or wherever.
Also, I think you could argue, I understand your concern with wrestling because we think of people wrestling as being literally on top of each other.
They are.
But the time that they are on top of each other is far less
Yeah.
than linemen in football are on top of each other. Linemen in football are in constant contact the whole game,
Sure.
as opposed to wrestlers who, somebody can fill me in here, minute and a half, 2 minutes.
Right.
And I'm not trying to diminish that,
No, it's
but
right.
I think, I'm just playing the devil's advocate here, if those people in football, can be on the line on top of each other for, a long amount of time, then some wrestlers can be wrestling for 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah, and I would think.
And that's the only time, just that one time,
Right.
as opposed to, again, players who are back and forth the whole game in football.
I think that's why we're taking into account the facility project. Anything we can do to help the airflow, air exchange, things
Right,
like that is
absolutely.
gonna be beneficial overall, because this is really not going away. We may find a way to mitigate it, hopefully soon, but it's not going away, so that kind of exchange of airflow would be a very positive thing to happen.
maybe setting up fans, I don't know,
Yeah,
I
right.
don't know.
That's not a bad idea, those big fans
Yeah,
for
that's-
the gym, that's even the.
Well, we have a
them?
we have a wrestling room that we use for practice. That's one of the things I plan on doing. You know, meeting with Mr. Porfido
Right,
and Mr. O'Hanlon, who's our wrestling coach,
right.
or to get their suggestions about what they think and what we could possibly do
Right.
to make it as safe as possible.
Yeah, and even the gym for the other sports with the windows open and having
Right.
some of the big fans just for the airflow situation.
Right. Okay, anyone else before we look at the consent agenda? So on the consent agenda, just a couple of things I want to point out. On page 2, the third resolution, Paula Alves, who was currently serving as our part-time Title I teacher. Paula came to us last year. She's done a nice job. We are going to transfer her over to full-time elementary world language teacher. The reason for that transfer is as a resolution a little bit further down, where Brenda Maldonado, who was our full-time world language teacher, one of two, decided to take she's required to take a paid medical leave using her sick days through November 30th, and then she's requested an unpaid leave for the remainder of the year. So we needed to fill that position. And we have, and actually Paula started about a week and a half ago, and she's doing a nice job. On page 3, at the top, a resolution recommended by the superintendent to approve the termination effective December 19th of employee number 5721 of the Cliffside Park Board of Education. 2 down from there, we are approving Jamie Anderson as a substitute school nurse at a per diem rate of $125 a day. A little bit further down, Elizabeth Layton, who is currently on family leave as per the Emergency Family and Medical Leave Act, is just adjusting the dates of her leave. So she will begin her unpaid leave effective October 26th through December 31st, and within the next couple of weeks make a decision regarding January moving forward. Underneath that, we are accepting the retirement of Ginny Larashi, Title I coordinator at School 6 Middle School. Ginny actually sees our entire Title I program, or oversees the program, also serves as a literacy coach. Ginny has been with us a number of years, excellent teacher, and has taught in a couple of different grade levels before she moved in to this position. Ginny's going to be missed, but on behalf of the board, I wish Ginny the best, and her retirement will begin January 1st, 2021. Page 4, we are just appointing co-curricular advisors that were open positions and now being filled. Advisors for grade 9, we have co-advisors, as you know, and Tiana Salviatera is the high school ESL coordinator. And then below that, 2 teachers, Andrew Romano, Jen Matone, who are teaching using a dual certificate. We had inadvertently left them off when we listed the teachers that, as per contract, teach a 6th class or have a dual certificate. So we're just following up on that. Page 5 and 6, we are approving the revised MOA. That's an agreement between the Board of Education and the Cliffside Park Police Department and the Fairview Police Department. And that's a mandated memorandum that is required by the Department of Education. Page 7, this is our second reading of policies and procedures, which I talked about last week. So we are approving those, and in most cases, those are revised policies. And on page 8, we are approving the School Safety and Security Plan Annual Review Statement of Assurance. This is something that gets filed with the state each year. I submitted the information, and when the results are sent back to us, then I share the results with the board members. But right now, it's just approving the fact that the information was submitted. Mr. Alfano, you have anything in finance?
Couple of quick items, Mr. Lomagino. On page 12, we're approving a resolution to Palisades Park, with the Joiner District and Cliffside Park, the host district. We transport Palisades Park kids on routes that go from our Cliffside routes. We piggyback with Palisades Park, gives us some incremental revenue to offset some of our costs. On page 14, you'll see the security grant application and sort of the submission of that application. There's three components to this. It's about $175,000 grant. One component is complying with Alyssa's law compliant. That's panic buttons in all of the school. There'll be 4 panic buttons in each school that are tied to the Cliffside Park Police Department. And there are 2 PA projects, one at number 5 school and one at the high school. That's the makeup of that security grant. And on page 15 is each October we have to do a resolution for submission of our comprehensive maintenance plan. That's function 261. That's what we call required maintenance. Things such as boilers and roofs. It's the general maintenance to keep the lights on in the building so we have a safe and healthy environment for the students. So each and every year we have to submit this to the county and the state. Pretty much it, Mr. Lomagino.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the board or the public on the consent agenda? Okay, so at this time, I'd like to take a motion to accept the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Is that Mr. Shelley?
Yes.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
That's Mr. Capano. I'll take a vote now, please. Mrs. Abreu?
Yes.
Mr. Capano?
Yes.
Mrs. Strata?
Yeah.
Mr. Garcia? Mr. Pompagliano?
Yes.
Mr. Raincourt?
Yes.
Mr. Shelley?
Yes.
Teddy? Yes. So moved, Mr. Lomagino.
Okay, before I ask for an adjournment, any questions from the public? Okay, our next board meeting, we have a work session on November 11th, which is going to be streamed to the public. But on November 18th, which is our regular board meeting, is open to the public as per the guidelines from the Department of Education. So at this time, I would just like a motion to adjourn.
So moved. That's Mr. Capano. May I have a second, please? Second. That's Mr. Raincourt.